What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video here on the Go on Fourth YouTube channel. Today we are talking about Week 3. We are talking about the DraftKings main slate. Before we get into the main slate, before we get into all the different breakdowns of players and games that we expect to have interesting results, we're going to look at the lineup that I ended up playing last week. This probably looks nothing like the first look lineup from last week that we had in the YouTube video. Like I said in the video last week, these things get, I hate to say optimized because this is not necessarily the best lineup, but these things get tinkered with throughout the week. So, come Sunday, it's probably completely different to how it looks on Tuesday or Wednesday. But this lineup won me most of my cash games, mainly because a lot of the chalk that I played didn't hit and everybody played it, and then, made a couple different decisions that other people did not make that ended up working out. This is just an example of a 50-50, obviously the percent owned. But, it's pretty much the same way throughout most contests that I played. So at quarterback, we had Derek Carr. I just thought he was good value. I thought the price point was good. Tua was a consideration, looking back on it, but not in cash, I don't think. I think Derek Carr was always going to be my guy this week. 18.9 is not killing you. I feel like he kind of left some points out there. I think the whole offense left some points out there, but he played okay. Joe Mixon obviously was a bust. Again, just trying to get a little bit different from the field with Mixon, and didn't really pay off. He had 11 points, not really what you want. Saquon Barkley was a bust, but nearly everybody played him because of his price point and his week last week. Devontae Adams was a huge bust, 2 catches. Luckily, again, 63% of people played him, so it didn't hurt too bad. Where I was able to get different was Tyreek, obviously 17% owned. Tyreek had a monster game, had an insane, crazy game. If you played Tyreek or Waddle, you probably did pretty well. Ashton Doolin as well. He had a really solid game, a team that was playing from behind the whole time. Who would have thought? But 4.8% ownership. He was kind of the go-to guy after Pittman went down. Once we found out Pittman wasn't playing, a lot of people, apparently not in this particular 50-50, but a lot of people, I think switched over to Doolin. I did, and it worked out for me, especially in this contest. Juwan Johnson, 11.3% owned. I thought for the price point and the amount of snaps he played last week, it was a no-brainer. Or week 1, I should say, it was a no-brainer. He played a lot of snaps again this week, caught 4 passes for 40 yards. It's just good. It's a good value play there. Darrell Henderson was chalk. A lot of people played Darrell Henderson because of how last week went for Cam Akers. Didn't turn out like we would expect. Cam Akers got more of the snaps in just kind of a bizarre twist of fate. And the Bengals defense did just fine. It was just a punt defense anyway against a Dallas team that you expected to not really be able to score much. They got 4 points. It is what it is. Now, one thing that's interesting about last week, I did not play a tournament lineup. If I did, this is one of the tournament lineups that I built out of just, messing around with games that I thought were going to be kind of high-scoring games. I was on the Dolphins and Ravens high-scoring game pretty much from the start last week, if you recall. I just figured that game had a good opportunity to shoot out. So this is one of the lineups that I built from that game using a double stack with Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews on the bring back, and then a secondary stack of Ashton Doolin and Christian Kirk. All those guys just went crazy. It really would have let me down with Saquon and Jacobs. Those two guys could have obviously been somebody else, probably would have gotten quite a bit of points, but 224. Again, I didn't actually play this lineup in any tournaments because, and it's probably a bad mentality to have, but to me, especially when I'm just trying to build bankroll and cash, playing tournaments just almost sometimes feels like a waste. Like, why would I put 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, however many dollars into a tournament if I just don't think I'm going to win it? So what I've kind of done this year is build tournament lineups alongside cash lineups and just kind of see how they do. See where they score, save them on Fantasy Labs, and just kind of see how they turn out. This one obviously would have smashed, and it's something I'm proud of because I feel like the process is working for me. I feel like I'm kind of getting there in terms of understanding the game and understanding what what to look for in terms of tournament plays and cash plays. Because last week was a pretty good week for me despite some less than stellar performances from guys that were pretty chalky. So let's talk about this week. This week is interesting to me because there's not too many games from what I can remember that have a very high total. It feels like a lot of these games are going to be fairly defensive, fairly slow-paced games. Looking at you, Green Bay and Tampa. Also looking at Where's Denver? I know Denver. They play on Monday. They may play on Monday. Either way, there's some slow paced games. Just all throughout the week, sprinkled in. Vegas and Tennessee will probably be pretty slow. Houston, Chicago is going to be very slow. So definitely some slow games. Baltimore, New England probably be slow. So games that you really don't want to attack, especially in cash, are games that are you're just going to play slow. Those are guys that just aren't going to get you points. Let's talk about quarterbacks first. Josh Allen, I think, is a good play this week. I think he's a little expensive, but he's going to get you there, man. He's going to get you 32, 33, 30, 25, however many points. I mean, he constantly bullies the Dolphins. I like the play. The Dolphins defense looked really bad last week. Josh Allen is a good play this week if you like some value options down the board. And we're going to talk, there's a lot of value at running back this week, in my opinion, which helps you get up to some good receivers, or it can help you get up to Josh Allen if you choose. Lamar Jackson, I struggle because I think, for one, people are going to be chasing him because he had 48 points last week. I don't like the matchup against New England because I not that New England's defense is anything to write home about, but I think it's going to be, like I said, a slower paced game. I think that Belichick's going to, not that he's necessarily the Lamar killer per se, but I think they'll do a decent job of slowing him down a little bit better than Miami did last week. I think Lamar had one of those outlier games where he just goes berserk through the air and on the ground. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think he's very capable of 25, 30, 35 points even. And if you think that he's going to get there, then by all means go for it. I would personally think he's probably going to get somewhere around 20 to 25. But that's just me. And I think it's going to be a slow-paced game as well. And so we'll see how that goes. But Lamar, I'm staying away from this week, especially in cash. Mahomes against Indianapolis. I like Mahomes this week. I have questions about their offense moving forward. Obviously, he is an exceptional quarterback. He's going to get you there most weeks just on his talent alone. But a part of it is the talent around him. And if he's not able to find Travis Kelce and use Travis Kelce in this offense in a more efficient way, then he's left throwing to MVS, Mecole Hardman, like guys like that, Justin Watson. Those are guys I don't trust. So as much as I trust Mahomes and I think he'll get you there, I don't trust the supporting cast quite as much. So it's kind of a wait and see thing on Mahomes with cash. And I think there's better value down the board. And we're going to keep looking. Well, here's the better value down the board. Jalen Hurts. I mean, obviously, to me, the Monday night performance against Minnesota was an outlier performance, right? But if you, in terms of his passing efficiency, in terms of his passing yards, it's not something that we're used to seeing from Jalen. But if you look at his fantasy points, his fantasy output that's not necessarily an outlier for him. He is very capable of putting up 37 points. I mean, I think last year he was pretty consistently putting up 30 points a game. So it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility to see that happen again against a Washington team that's not very good. Now, here's the caveat with Hurts, and here's what makes him a little bit scary to play this week. The only thing that freaks me out is the fact that it's a division game. Philadelphia against Washington, you just never know with divisional matchups. You just don't know what's going to happen. So it's tough to say, oh, Jalen Hurts is a super smash this week. He's going to kill it and be super confident about it. Now, personally, I think he is. So I'm going to start him at quarterback. I think he's going to get you there, and I think that his floor is good enough with him running the football that even mistakes that he makes, or even if he doesn't have a crazy good game, his floor is solid. Another option, Justin Herbert. It's kind of a wait-and-see situation with Herbert because of his rib injury. He's questionable right now. They kind of made it sound like he might play. I can't imagine he does. Broken fractured rib cartilage. I just think sit him out, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, let him heal up, however long it takes him to heal up, and then send him back out there. I don't think their season is going to get derailed for him not playing for 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be surprised if he plays. If he does play, Jacksonville's defense is a little bit better than people are giving them credit for. Their pass rush has been pretty stellar, and it's not that it's going to be a difficult matchup for Herbert, but again, with the way the offense is running, kind of short underneath routes, short underneath passing game, Herbert is less interesting to me this week, coming off of an injury where you don't know if he's going to actually play the whole game. If he gets hit again, what happens. I'm staying away from Herbert this week. Kyler, I like Kyler, but I don't love him. He's not really running as much as he used to, about 5 carries a game, it looks like, roughly 28 and a half yards a game. So it's not as much rushing upside as he maybe had previous, and his passing upside is also not necessarily where it used to be because of the lack of DeAndre Hopkins on his team right now, or on the field right now, I should say. And Rashad Bateman is still kind of a question mark. If Rashad Bateman plays, I think, or Rondell Moore, sorry. If Rondell Moore plays, I think it gives him a bit of a boost. But even still, I mean, I just don't know. I really don't know about Kyler. I'm kind of hesitant to play him against the Rams just because I could see Kyler throwing 2 or 3 interceptions in that game if the Rams are playing their best, which we haven't seen yet, but they're definitely capable. Another quarterback I like this week is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins at 6,700. And to me, there's 3 tiers this week. And you can look under Cousins if you'd like. There are some decent players down here as well. You're either going to pay up for Josh Allen, you're going to hit the middle tier with Jalen Hurts, or you're going to pay under for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has a great matchup against Detroit. He has thrown the ball 32 times in the first game, which it was a blowout win, and 46 times in the Monday night game, which was basically a blowout loss, right? Either way, he's stolen the ball quite a lot. He has 2 wide receivers, and Adam Thielen, who hasn't shown up this year, but Adam Thielen is a very talented receiver, and he has Justin Jefferson on his team, who just got super bagged by Darius Slay. So Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, it kind of, if you're into the narrative games, could be a revenge tour type game for Justin Jefferson. I like Kirk Cousins this week against Detroit. I think it's probably got a good opportunity to shoot out. He's definitely a quarterback that I would be targeting in tournaments at his price point, especially when you've got a couple other pass catchers on that team that are fairly cheap, and we'll talk about those guys in a minute. Joe Burrow, until his offensive line shows that they can block for him and shows that they can hold up, and until Joe Burrow shows that he can win across the middle of the field consistently on a consistent basis against cover 2, he's a scary play for me because he could drop 16 points. Yeah, he dropped 26 week 1. They went to overtime, and he had to throw the ball the whole game because they were losing. So, man, I hesitate on Burrow. I think they're going to have their hands full with the Jets, in my opinion. I would, and it's on the road too. I would hesitate to play Burrow. I think in tournaments he's probably fine because I don't know how many people are going to play him, but his price point isn't bad for tournaments. Stafford, I would probably stay away from just in cash. I mean, he's got no real rushing floor at all, and I don't necessarily see this game being a shootout so much as I see maybe the Rams just kind of dog walking the Cardinals. Rodgers, I'm obviously staying away from. Wentz, I probably wouldn't touch. Tua this week, I probably wouldn't touch either. Again, don't chase Tua. He had a great performance last week. He had a crazy game. It is for most quarterbacks, it would be a once-in-career type of game. Don't chase that this week because he's playing a really good team. Even if they get down and they have to pass a lot, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to have any numbers similar to what he had last week. I would not chase Tua. He looks like good value. He looks like a great price. I just wouldn't chase it. Brady, I'm not interested in. Derek Carr is an interesting player. Last week, he didn't really get us there last week. He had 18.9. It's hard with Josh McDaniels' offense to really see what is going to happen with Derek Carr. So I hesitate to go with Carr as well. At running back, you could pay up for the big dogs, man. McCaffrey, or let's talk about Jonathan Taylor first. Obviously, he's the most expensive. Jonathan Taylor was not really involved in the offense last week, which is surprising. They just got down, and he just wasn't very involved. That's going to happen again this week. They're going to get down to Kansas City, and I don't know how much involvement he's going to have. He could very easily rush for maybe 12, 13, 15 attempts, have 100 yards and a touchdown. He gets you there with some catches as well. I just, for that price point, I don't really like him. Same with McCaffrey. I'm just not interested. New Orleans is not a terrible, horrible matchup, but still not something I really like. I do appreciate that even though he had the same amount of targets, it does feel like he's at least somewhat involved in the passing game. I mean, it's not 13 targets like we're used to seeing from him, but it is reasonable amount of targets for a running back. He is still getting you a solid floor with his pass work, and then obviously he's going to get a decent chunk of carries. So McCaffrey's okay, but again, the price point I don't like. Derrick Henry is bound to have a bounce back game, but I'm not going to chase it. To say bounce back after 21 carries, 82 yards is kind of funny, but this is not what we're used to seeing from him, obviously. I don't know how his price went up after Monday night, but it did. It's back to 81. Derek is a no play for me. He's a tournament play, potentially, but I'm not playing him. Austin Eckler. I don't hate Austin Eckler. It just kind of depends on the game script, and it depends on if Herbert's playing. If Herbert doesn't play, I think it kind of boosts Eckler just a little bit because What do backup quarterbacks like? They like dumping the ball off to tight ends. They like dumping the ball off to running backs, and they like running the ball. So, Austin Eckler, if Herbert doesn't play, is an interesting option. But again, I think there's really good value down here. Dalvin Cook is a great play. He may be one of the best plays of the week potentially. Or he gets you 13 or 7. I like the matchup against Detroit. I think he's going to do fine. It will probably be his best game of the season. I'm just not interested. Same with Mixon. Same with Aaron Jones. DeAndre Swift, again, probably not a bad play. I'm a little concerned about his snap share with Jamal Williams, his share of carries as well. I'm a little concerned. But DeAndre Swift's not a bad play this week. Leonard Fournette. This is the guy that I'm playing. Now, I will preface this by saying that David Montgomery had a really, really crazy game against the Packers last week. David Montgomery also was on the Bears, who were getting their doors blown off by Green Bay. So most of the yards that he got were kind of in garbage time late. Packers didn't really care. They were just kind of letting them move the ball down the field. It wasn't like they were really out there trying to stop the run. And the Bears were pretty content to just let the clock run. However, Leonard Fournette, since his time in Jacksonville, I have disrespected Leonard Fournette quite a bit. I think it's time that I come around and I see the light a little bit. I think Leonard Fournette is a good play this week. I think he's going to have a good game against Green Bay. I think he's going to have to for them to be competitive. And I think he will. I don't know necessarily that he's going to run for 150 yards. I think he's probably going to end up somewhere around 20 carries, maybe 80 to 100. He could still get you, roughly 100 yards. He may score. He's going to be involved in the passing game, especially if Tampa's losing. I like Fournette in the game script. I like him in this game. I like him at his price point. I think he's a solid play. We're going to go ahead and plug him into the lineup. Antonio Gibson, no thank you. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is having a bit of a resurgence, and I can understand if you would want to play him and why. I just don't think this is the week for it. I think, again, we need to see consistency over time. He's still not getting a ton of touches. 12 touches, 10 touches. It's just not really enough. And he's making the most of them, and he's playing well. I hesitate to play him in cash games, at least. Now, in tournaments, I wouldn't hesitate if you're doing a Matt Ryan stack, God bless you, but doing a Hilaire bring back, or even just doing maybe a secondary stack with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Pittman if he plays, or even Doolin or somebody like that, is not the end of the world. It's probably okay. James Robinson, I'm kind of indifferent about. A.J. Dillon, same thing. David Montgomery against Houston. Houston is a much, much better team than people are giving them credit for. This game is going to be slow. This game is going to be on the ground. We just watched the Bears lose by, 17 points, 14 points, 20 points, who knows? And, it's right here, 17 points. we watched the Bears lose by 17 points, right? And they threw the ball 11 times. David Montgomery is going in my team. He is their lead back. He is getting the lion's share of the snaps. Give me David Montgomery this week. I think he's a good play. And at the flex, because I always play running back at flex in cash games. I have to. I like Cordero Patterson this week. I think, last week it was a bit weird. He kind of had a kind of a timeshare in the backfield with Tyler Algier and their other backup running back whose name escapes me. But, man, that week 1 performance, 22 carries, 120 yards, a touchdown, good targets out of the backfield in a game that was mostly competitive. I expect this game to be competitive. The Rams game wasn't competitive, so I can understand why maybe you kind of save Cordero and don't really throw him out there as much. This game will be a competitive game. And if Arthur Smith wants to win this game, I expect Cordero Patterson to get a good amount of touches. So I think Cordero Patterson's probably a good play. Again, this could all change on a week-to-week basis, so don't quote me. But I do like Cordero Patterson this week in the flex. The wide receiver position. You have Cooper Kupp. He's obviously just a plug-and-play guy. He's going to get 1 million targets. He's going to get 1 million catches. He's going to get 1 million yards. He's going to get touchdowns. He's a great play this week. You want to play Cooper Kupp? I can't fault you. I would recommend playing him probably with a cheaper running back or a quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Maybe a Stafford, maybe Derek Carr. But to me, Jalen Hurts is so expensive, and the running backs that I have are good value, but they're not necessarily super cheap. I think you can include Kupp, but I think you need to get cheaper at quarterback if you're going to do that. Justin Jefferson, I really, really like this week. I think he's going to bounce back. He's still getting the target share. He just came up against a buzzsaw in Darius Slay. And who would have thought? Who would have saw that coming? I mean, Darius Slay just shut his ass down. It's crazy. And that's not going to happen every week. And it's not going to happen this week against Detroit. My concern for this game is that it could get away from Detroit a little bit, and then they start running the ball a little bit more. Just try to be a little bit more balanced offensively. I know that's not necessarily Kevin O'Connell's way, but and again, Jefferson is pretty expensive here, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be on him for good reason. Devontae Adams is not a bad bounce back spot for him. I think this game is going to be slower paced than people would imagine. He is going to be able to get open against Tennessee at will, just like Stephon Diggs did last night. But 7 targets last week. They kind of went away from him a little bit against an Arizona secondary that people don't really have any respect for. So it is questionable, but I think Devontae Adams has a good bounce back game. He's not where we're going. Again, we're trying to... right now, I think the best approach for this week, based off of the prices, is a good balanced attack, a balanced lineup. Jamar Chase, solid play this week. I think he's going to have a good game. He's going to have to if they're going to beat the Jets. And I know that's a crazy thing to say, but they need Jamar Chase to step up, and I think he will. He was really kind of non-existent last week against Dallas, but I do think this week he will also have a bounce-back week. Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. Now, I will say his last few games against Xavier Howard have not been fantastic. They have not been necessarily world beater type of games. He is 7,700. He is still underpriced, so if you want to play him, I understand it based off the target share, based off the amount of usage he's going to get. But he's basically going to be on Xavier Howard most of the game. So I don't necessarily love him here, even though I'm sure he'll have a great game. Tyreek, again, you can chase this. You can, and that's fine. Buffalo's secondary is not very good, at least not right now. Their safeties are fine. Their corners are bad. So I do think that it is going to be part of the game plan to get Tyreek involved and to get him the ball. I just don't know how much, and I don't know how effectively they're going to be able to do that. Buffalo's pass rush is going to be getting to Tua. I think they're going to probably have to take a lot more short passes, which Tyreek is very capable of handling. I like Tyreek, but down here is Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is $800 less than Tyreek. Jalen Waddle is just as involved in that offense. Don't worry about week 1. Week 1 is an anomaly, right? Jalen Waddle is going to be involved in the offense. So if I can get a piece of that offense and I can get a piece of that game, and where I think Buffalo's defense is going to have a little bit of trouble slowing the Dolphins down. Maybe they're not going to concede 42 points, but they may have some trouble with the Dolphins' passing attack. Give me Jalen Waddle as a wide receiver option this week. A.J. Brown, I love this week. I think he's going to have a fantastic game. Anytime I see the Washington Commanders, Washington football team, on a slate, I want the receivers against them. I really do. So A.J. Brown, I like this week. I think he's going to have a great week. Probably remnants of week 1. But the guy that I want is Amon-Ra St. Brown. I watched Devontae Smith tear up the Minnesota Vikings. I watched Jalen Hurts tear up the Minnesota Vikings. I watched Quez Watkins tear up the Minnesota Vikings. So I want Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I think Detroit is going to have to keep up with Minnesota scoring, but I think they will be able to, based off of what I've seen from Minnesota's defense. I like Amon-Ra this week. I know it feels like you're maybe chasing a little bit because he had 42 points last week. But when a player shows that consistency and they've shown that he is going to get the targets, 12 targets in back-to-back weeks, give me Amon-Ra. Give me Amon-Ra all day in a game that I think is going to be competitive. And last but not least, and there's some players I like in here. Obviously, Christian Kirk, I think against the Chargers, he will do fine. They play him primarily in the slot anyway. So I like Christian Kirk. I don't mind T. Higgins. Lazard, I think, is a good play. I don't know if he's a cash play. I think maybe a bit more of a tournament guy if you're going to kind of stack this game. But again, I don't know if stacking this game is the right idea. But he's out there a lot. He's going to be the one that you would assume Rodgers is going to go to when he needs him. And they just didn't need him on Sunday night. Hollywood Brown. Michael Thomas, I don't hate. Adam Thielen, I don't hate. But we're going a little bit further down into uncharted waters, if you will. We're going into value territory. And we're going to pick up Chris Olave. Carolina Panthers defense is not all that good. Their secondary is not bad, but give me Chris Olave with the upside of 13 targets last week. Obviously, that could be an outlier, an anomaly type of game, but Chris Olave has had lots of opportunities so far this season, made the most of them in week 1, and then plenty of opportunities last week. He left a bit out there But if they're going to give him opportunities and give him looks, give me Chris Olave at 4,500 because at the worst, I think his floor is probably around 9 or 10, 12. I mean, if you get 12, you're nearly tripling, you're 3xing the salary anyway. So give me Chris Olave this week. I think he has a good week. That's going to be the receiver position basically done. There are some definitely interesting value plays down here. We're in tight end territory. Let's get back up here. There's interesting value plays down here this week. Treylon Burks, I think, is a sneaky play because he was really involved in the offense last week, or I guess on Monday. I think they're only going to get him more involved. I think they have to. So I like Treylon Burks this week against Vegas. I don't think that they're going to really have any issues stopping him. I like Isaiah McKenzie. I like the matchup against the Dolphins secondary. If Stephon Diggs is in hell with Xavier Howard, then Isaiah McKenzie is going to be a guy that they probably will look to go to plenty. And again, there's definitely guys down here that I like. Greg Dortch, his price has shot up. He's now at 4,300, making him a little bit less of an easy value choice. Let's see. Ashton Dulin, right? Ashton Dulin, 3,900. I still think it's too low if Pittman doesn't play. I think Ashton Dulin is probably going to be one of those guys that Matt Ryan goes to plenty if they're losing to Kansas City. So I like Ashton Dulin as well as a value play. But I'm taking Olave, and we're going to ride with that. Now, defense doesn't matter, really. Early week, I'm leaning Jets. I think Robert Saleh is a good defensive coach. I think he knows what he's doing. And I really do feel that the Jets are going to have a good game plan for Cincinnati. They are bound to get sacks because Cincinnati's offensive line can't hold up and Joe Burrow holds the ball too long. And they're bound to get interceptions if they're able to get pressure. I like the Jets defense this week. I think it's probably a solid play. I think a lot of people are probably going to be on them as the week goes on. And at tight end, give me some Irv Smith, man. Look, I know he dropped a big touchdown pass. I know it's Bama bias coming back for me as well. But they got him involved. They got him a touchdown. He had 8 targets, 5 catches at 3,100. It is way, way, way too cheap. And if he gets that opportunity again that he dropped, he catches it and he scores. And then instead of getting 14 points, he has 25 and he smashes. So give me Irv, give me the upside, and just give me a piece of that game. Give me another piece of that game. Because I think that game has a potential to shoot out as well. So this is the lineup. You get Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Fournette, Demont, and Cordero Patterson, the 3 running backs. Waddle, Amon-Ra, Olave, and Irv Smith at tight end with the Jets defense to round it out. So this is more than likely, barring any tinkering, barring any major injury news, this is a lineup that I really like, and I'm probably going to try to stick with this all throughout the week. So we'll be back next week. We're going to talk about how the lineup went, where we went wrong, what mistakes we made, all that good stuff. Make sure you keep an eye out on the YouTube channel. We're going to have the betting guide for week 3, as well as the showdown slate video for DraftKings coming out here soon. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure that you subscribe, like the video, comment, let me know how much money I'm going to lose. And all that being said, see you guys next time. Don't forget, going forth.